I swear, guys, this Bulls team is taking years off of my life. Like, how many nail biters are we going to see from the Bulls this season? But it does feel that much more sweet when it ends in a win compared to the loss like we saw in overtime last night. Now, I know what some of you guys are going to be thinking. The win aside, this game still should never have been as close as it was, given the fact that you're going against one of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference, and the fact that they were without 3 of their best players in Miles Turner, Domantas Sabonis, and Malcolm Brogdon. And yes, to an extent, that's true. Like, even without Lavine and Coby White tonight, who were late scratches to the lineup, this is still a game the Bulls should win handily. But what's important to note is, aside from not having Lavine and White, in addition to all the other guys who were out, but you may not have caught Casey Johnson's tweet from earlier today that the Bulls, after playing an overtime game, delays with their team plane that needed to be de-iced, they actually ended up not checking into their hotel into Indianapolis until 3 a.m. last night, and had to come out and play a game yet again this evening. This coming from guys who played over 40 minutes last night. And actually, they played with strong energy to start the game. The Bulls came out firing and went on a 10-0 run. It was just impressive, to say the least, to come out and look not completely lethargic and fight through the game despite being shorthanded and, of course, walking away with a win. And, of course, we've had incredible performances from Nikola Vucevic, who set his season high last night and comes out to exceed that again tonight. DeRozan and Ayo Dosunmu were also fantastic, so let's talk about it. Now, you do have to give the Pacers a ton of credit. Like, yes, the Bulls were pretty sloppy at times, but the Pacers actually played well for how short-handed they are and were scrappy on defense as well as crashing the offensive boards. Caris LeVert, who basically carried the team throughout the first half and ended the game with 42 points, was incredible in this one. And I will say, Billy Donovan did make some nice adjustments in the second half to limit his offense when clearly he was the only reason that was keeping the Pacers in the game. And even after those adjustments were made and LeVert wasn't scoring as easily, you then had other guys step up big for them, like Taylor, Washington Jr., and the rookie Chris Duarte. Like, the Pacers as a team played very hard despite not having their best players, and they looked to take advantage of a Bulls team that had just played last night. But thanks to a huge game from Vucevic yet again, which we knew this was going to be a big game for him when he needed to take full advantage of the Pacers having limited size without Turner and Sabonis. He did just that. I was a little disappointed that the Bulls weren't feeding him the ball more in the post in the first half. Like, some of that is on coaching, but again, you saw the adjustments on that end of the floor in the second half as well. But Vucevic, for a guy who's been putting up career lows in shooting from the field, was 16 for 21 tonight. He finishes the game with 36 points, 17 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 blocks. This, by far and away, Vucevic's best game of the season. When they needed a big game from him, too, with the Bulls being down so many players. DeRozan was great as well. Hasn't been as efficient with his mid-range jumper as what we saw earlier in the season, but I'm sure some of that has just to do with fatigue. But again, the luxury of DeRozan that the Bulls really struggled with last season was getting to the line, and tonight DeRozan did that yet again and was perfect from the line tonight. He was 9 for 9. Last night he was 14 for 14. DeRozan finished with 31 points, 7 assists, and 5 rebounds, and he did have 6 turnovers tonight, though, and some of those were pretty bad turnovers late in the game when DeMar was really trying to do too much and taking over the game instead of just trusting in his teammates, especially when Vucevic and Ayo were having such great nights. And Javonte Green, for that matter, was actually having a good night. Like, Javonte was huge in this game as a role player, putting up 16 points on 7 for 10 shooting and keeping up that hustle and energy on defense when the Bulls' defense overall has really been slipping lately. But man, I know we're all a little biased, but are you kidding me? The rookie Ayo Dosunmu coming in the clutch yet again. No fear, going strong to the basket for the dunk to put the Bulls up 5 with a few seconds left to put the dagger in the Pacers. Like, you don't see this type of confidence that we have seen from Bulls rookies in the past anyway. Not just having the confidence to close out games, but actually delivering on it. By the way, I love the play call by Donovan in that timeout. I mean, sometimes I'm pretty critical of Billy Donovan with some of his late game decision making, but knowing that the Pacers were likely going to focus on doubling up DeRozan, or knowing that we're going to go inside to Vooch, and just doing a quick wraparound screen to drive to the basket from their rookie, like, it's not an aggressive play you would think is going to be drawn up to close out the game if you're the Pacers, and it threw them off, which is what enabled Ayo to get the look at the basket for the jam. Aside from that play, though, Ayo was great tonight, and being that floor general and facilitating as the point guard, putting up a career high 14 assists to go along with 15 rebounds, which he shot 6 for 9 from the field, by the way. Ayo also had 2 steals tonight. You know what's funny is that I do complain about Troy Brown Jr. a lot because he really just hasn't met my expectations this season. And when I saw that he was going to be in the starting lineup, starting at the 2, I was a little wary. And if you actually look at Troy Brown Jr.'s numbers, they aren't really anything overly impressive. But believe it or not, in his 35 minutes of play, he had a team-high plus 17 in box plus minus. So I guess his presence on the court was actually valuable for the Bulls tonight in their win. Matt Thomas actually was decent off the bench as well. We knew that he was going to be getting more playing time with Coby being out. He finished the game with 10 points in 27 minutes. The Bulls still need to work on their three-point shooting, though. 6 for 26 tonight. That's a big reason why the Pacers hung around in this game. But the Bulls did put up 30 assists again tonight, and of course, near half of those being Ayo's. But again, the ball and player movement is what you want to see from this team, and getting a lot of guys involved. Also, the Bulls, despite looking kind of sloppy by the eye test measure, actually only turned the ball over 9 times tonight compared to the 17 turnovers they had in last night's game against Toronto. So yes, it's still not the best game for the Bulls when you think about who they were going up against, but you also have to remember the Bulls just played last night in an overtime loss. Were without 5 key rotational players, one of which was an all-star, and they still managed to play hard and walk away with the win. And even though I probably lost another couple of months of my life while watching the game, I still thoroughly enjoyed it nonetheless. The Bulls are off tomorrow and then taking on the Sixers on Sunday. That is going to be a tough game. The Sixers have been rolling recently, which is, by the way, another reason why we really needed the win tonight. Until then, guys, hope you enjoy your Friday evening, and as always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I do post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.